Hello, everybody, and welcome to another live panel discussion show, a very unique one. And I am your host, Joe Compton at GoIndieNow. And let me mute my YouTube because this is not my first rodeo. And we are here at the When Worlds Collide in the Park View Room in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And I have three, well, I don't know if they're all from Calgary, but I believe they're all Canadian, of Canadian's finest authors here with me, and podcasters and digital artists. I mean, we've got the gamut of indies here with me today, and I'm really happy to have them. I'll have them introduce themselves in a second, and I just wanted to let everybody in the audience who's watching know if you have a question, raise your hand and I will ask it. Obviously, you won't be seeing, but I think you probably would prefer that anyway. So unless you want to come up here and you can walk right in front of the camera and say something if you'd like, but that's up to you. But if you have a question, just raise your hand and I will ask it of the panel. And anybody out there who's chatting with us live, if you want to go ahead and ask a question, just put it in the chat and I will retrieve it and to ask these guys the question. So we are here to discuss the importance of events like this, and we will do so after I let everybody introduce themselves. So go ahead, Josh.
My name is Joshua Pantelleresco. I write stuff and podcasts too. I have 3 books: The Watcher, Storm Dancer, and The Wandering God, courtesy of Mirror World Publishing. And I have a podcast called Just Joshing, which airs twice a week, every day on Podomatic, iTunes, Player FM, and other players.
Awesome. Con?
Yeah, my name's Con Lavery. I am a writer of horror, dark fantasy, and thriller novels. And then I'm also a contract graphic designer, which provides a lot of bread and butter for me to pursue my writing aspirations. Big fan of transmedia storytelling. So it's like merging different types of media to tell the same kind of story. So it bridges into the literary world, it gets into the visual, auditorial. And I'm a huge fan of that stuff. And you can see a lot of that in the writing that I do.
Very nice. And Mark?
My name is Mark Watson. I am an author from Calgary, Alberta. I have 2 books currently out right now. My first book is Death Dresses Poorly, which is right here on my right-hand side. And I also have the first part of my 2-part epic fantasy. It is called Catching Hell Part 1 Journey, and I hope to have Part 2 out for you by the end of the year. I like to self-stylize myself as what I call an anti-author. Although I am an author, I am one of the few people that does not want to do this full-time. I love it as a hobby and I like to explore it that way, but I also very much like my job and the things that I do, and I really enjoy combining the 2 of them.
I'm not sure that actually makes you an anti-author, though.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Maybe makes you an anti-publishing businessman, but
yeah. Somewhat, but that doesn't ring as good when it comes to marketing myself as the words anti-author.
I get it. I would go with like Renaissance man. That'd be a good one. That actually sounds like a more positive, upbeat point of view. You know what I mean?
But if I call myself a Renaissance author, I'd really set the bar high for what kind of stuff I am not doing that.
Okay. So I just go totally in that one. Okay, gotcha.
How many times have you guys been to this particular event? What is this?
My 4th.
4th?
I think 3.
3?
I think 3.
This is my 3rd time.
All right.
Yeah.
So what keeps you coming back to this event? What is it about this event in particular that keeps you coming back?
It's super, and this is going to sound like the boring answer, but this is the truth. Like, I go to different conventions. This one's incredibly organized. And that's a huge, so I'm not going to name the con. There's this one con I went to. I didn't know I was going to that con till literally a day before the con. I was getting these. I was on the waiting list, and I ended up. I get these messages from the con about my table. I have not been confirmed for this convention yet. The first time I was like, okay, this was a mistake. Then I started getting more information the next day. I'm like, okay, this isn't a mistake. I'm not sure what's going on. Am I on the show? The show is Friday. I don't get an answer till Thursday. I'm still getting information that I'm on the show. So this will tell you what kind of show this was when I got there. So I was like, okay. And so I like this show is very, very, very well organized. I know where I'm going. I know what I'm doing. I have meet a lot of great people. It's a fun event in terms of the people you meet and the opportunity and the connections. But yeah, I don't feel like the whole place is going to catch fire magically at any moment either. And that might sound
That's a plus.
Yeah, that might sound like an over exaggeration, but like when you go to these events and you don't, and when the convention doesn't know up from down, it's frightening.
Yeah. I guess the reason I keep coming back is I keep meeting new people. The networking thing has been kind of the biggest part with coming here. Like the first year I went, didn't know anyone, arrived and just started introducing myself, where I found some of the other cons you can't quite do that as much. And it depends on the nature of the convention. This one tends to be more informational based, and there's panels and presentations, and that's more of the forefront than it is about stars or giant vendor rooms. It's about actually meeting people. So you can actually sit in the lobby and introduce yourself and be like, my name is Con. I came down from Edmonton first time. And then that's a good opener to meet people. And since then I've been going and I continue to meet new people. And I didn't know you were going for 4 years, and now we're meeting for the first time.
No,
right?
exactly.
So stuff like that. You're always meeting new people, and the panels are super informative. And it's much more, there's a better spirit to it because everyone's here to learn.
Yeah, you and I sat on a really good one. We'll talk about that in a minute. But Mark, you keep coming back.
For me, I'd like to echo what they said. It's very well organized, and the networking's been fantastic. I've met so many great people. But for me personally, it's a benchmark. It happens about the same time every single year. And when I first started writing, I started writing and really putting myself out there as an author later in my life. It was only a few years ago. So the first time I walked in, I was a complete noob. I had no idea what was going on, and I was terrified of absolutely everything. And then the next year, I was getting more comfortable, meeting more people, getting myself a bit more involved. And then this year, I can look back on the things that I've accomplished in the last couple of years, and I can have more educated conversations with people that I probably wouldn't have been able to talk to them, at least on that level that I was comfortable with when I first met them 2 years ago. In some cases, like I met Con 2 years ago, we both came at the same time, and we've spoken ever since. But in other cases, it's the same thing where there's somebody who's been here and I've seen their face for a few years, but I've never really been able to talk to them. So this is my new high watermark, and then hopefully I keep pushing it up year after year.
Very nice. Katie at Spilling Ink says hello, by the way.
Hey. Hi, Spilling Ink. What's up?
What do you think is one benefit you never expected to get by attending something like the WWC?
I started my podcast here.
Nice.
I didn't plan it. My career is completely defined by accents. I'm just going to warn everybody that up front. But I've been doing interviews for about 15 years, and I've been doing written interviews. So I would interview somebody, I'd write it out and do it. And I finally get a phone. It's a smartphone. It's like, yes, I'm in the 21st century. I can actually record my interviews and write it. And I remember this. I got the opportunity to interview Robert J. Sawyer, and he mentions offhandedly.
A good start.
Yes, he mentions offhandedly your podcast, and something just clicked in my brain. It was like, I didn't think about a podcast. Can I do a podcast? Why? And this is literally how my brain works. So this is my fourth one. It's the third year, like legitimately the third year of my podcast, because it started at When Words Collide.
Nice.
Like, why do I keep coming back?
No, what's the one benefit you never expected to get?
Oh, yeah. I never expected to actually meet the range of people that I did. I always figured I'd meet people within the industry, but then I've met illustrators and I've met designers, and then I see them at other conventions, and it's like, oh, you're here too. It kind of feels like the circus where we'll pack up our stuff and go to the next thing and then pack that up and keep going. So yeah, I never thought there'd be so much cross-pollination, and that's been a really nice kind of addition to this. And yeah, that's why I think I'm surprised that keeps happening. Yeah.
For me, it's that at this point, doing something new, turning a hobby and making it into something bigger, I was surprised at how scared I was the first few times, and how the fear that goes, because at this point I am a happily married man with 2 kids. My career is firmly established. To walk into a room and not know what the result was going to be, it was a way to kind of wake up and be like, you need to be taken seriously here. Your aloof comments aren't going to cut it anymore. And I was scared. And to sit there, like, I'm scared when my kids do something dumb. I get stressed out, scared when something's not going right at work. But to stand in front of people and to present myself, I never thought that I was going to be as scared as I was. And in every single year, it hasn't quite been the same as that first one, but there's always a level of, okay, in the first year it was presenting myself. So in the next year, it's kind of networking and coming up on and doing things like this and being on this side of the table and just continuously kind of going up like that. I love the fear, but I was never expecting it to be what it is.
Yeah, and you came and volunteered to do this. So that's pretty awesome.
I did, in about 24 hours notice. I was like, yeah, absolutely. Throw me in front of a camera. This will go well.
I have to say, other than it being 98 degrees, 37 in Calgary.
About 110.
Yeah,
about 110. I live in Arizona, so I know it's like.
It's so, that surprised me. But what really surprised me is that this is a very well-oiled machine, like you were saying, and it's very. I've been to so many festivals and so many conferences, and you all should feel fortunate that you're a part of this, because it is something that is not in every aspect of every festival and every conference that I've ever been in. There's a lot of turmoil at these things usually, and I know that a lot of times it's behind the scenes and people don't see that. The conferences do a good job of hiding that, but they've done a really good job of being transparent here and giving you a bird's eye view of what they're going through, and you can see how well they've prepared for that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, no, it's actually very refreshing because you can actually see them doing the work, and and when it's a good show, when it's a really good show, you almost don't notice it, everything they're doing. When it's a bad show, that's when you tend to actually notice, like you see a lot more of the people that should be behind the scenes in front, and that's always a bad sign. That almost never happens here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Even like you volunteered to come up here, and that's something I really like about this is how everyone's here out of passion.
Yeah.
And that's what's nice about it. And they're very transparent with it. They're just like, we love writing. Come help us. We're going to make something great. Mm-hmm. And yeah, everyone does that. And that's why there's so much value here.
And I can say I wouldn't have volunteered 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, that's growth for me. And it just shows how comfortable I can be knowing that I've come here now and I've seen how well things are done. They're not going to get some hack with a laptop coming up here and having a conversation with us and asking, so what's your favorite shape of gingerbread cookie? Like it's going to be something that you want to engage in. Right?
I'll try to live up to that.
It's a snowman, by the way. A snowman is my favorite, but that doesn't matter. But no, I have faith in the people that they're getting to come up here and do this, and I have faith in the way that it's organized. The last little while, I've been fortunate enough to connect with people who are associated with this and see the work that they're putting into it, and it gives me, as just a person who's coming here out of passion, be I presenter or just somebody who's an attendee, a lot more confidence.
That's awesome. We have a question from our chat actually, and it's Katie from Spilling Ink, and she wants to know, what's the best question you've ever been asked on a panel? Hopefully I asked it. I'm just kidding.
Honestly, it depends on the panel, because each panel you do, there's a different expertise kind of required.
Yeah.
Like if I'm doing a Goodreads panel, right, my questions are going to be very different than when I'm doing a podcast panel. Right. So,
Well, your passion is podcasting, or at least you're
one of them for sure. So it's definitely the best. Okay, not non-technical. I think the best question I ever got on the podcast front was like, what is a podcast about? Because podcasting, as you well know, is a very diverse field. Like you do all kinds of different things, and like the concern was genuine in terms of time, in terms of what should I be going for. That's they wanted to do it right, and I respected that.
Yeah,
so
nice.
Best question. That's a tough one. I know my favorite.
That's fine too. It's a
it was a panel that I did at the Calgary Expo, some authors, and it's like, you wrote a book, so now what? That was the name of the panel.
Yeah.
And then we did our intros. We talked a little bit about publishing and stuff, and then we opened the floor to questions. And then the lady was like, okay, so now what? I've got a book, so now what do I do with it? Oh, great. That's an easy one. But there's been some hard ones, like, and I think that's actually what makes them good. I had another one, not to get particular about what it was about, but he didn't like the answer we had to share, even though all three of us gave them an answer, and he just wasn't convinced. And that was a tough one, and he wanted to talk to me after about it to get the answer he was digging for, but it still couldn't get it. So that was a real challenge to talk him and try to like get him down to a level where it's like, it's this is just kind of how the industry works, whether it's you like it or not. So that was a tough one, and I think that's why I think that was the best one I got, because it was a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I freely admit I'm not as experienced as my fellow panelists here, but I can still answer the question, because my favorite was, can I have your autograph?
Yeah, that's cool.
Because that was the first time when it wasn't like a family member or something like that, and
it's such a great feeling.
It is, and I was obviously they liked what it was that I had to say, and I didn't have anything that I could really autograph at that time, other than I had part of a reading that I had, like, and so I just had it written down, and I'm like, you can have this, and I signed that. And it was last year, and it was just after Death Dresses Poorly here had been picked up, so it was a chunk of that. So they were good with that, because it was going to be a book that was coming out. But yeah, absolutely, that was my favorite. That told me, again, that benchmarking, Mark, you're at the next level. Somebody, even if it's for a laugh.
Yeah,
maybe it was for a laugh.
I'll tell you, that was my favorite question: is what's the title of my book and how do you spell it? And how do you spell your last name? That was my favorite question, because I know everybody, everybody wants to be asked that question, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's you feel like you've done something right if you're being asked that question, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's one tip you can give someone attending a writers' conference or a festival like this that you wish you had gotten before you attended it?
Wow. Actually, you know what? Enjoy the experience no matter what. Even if you're I've had good panels, I've had bad panels. The bad ones, and this is where this really comes to mind, like, not every experience you're going to have, no matter, and it's not the fault of the show. It's just not every person you're going to be with is going to click with you.
Yeah.
And that's just life. So it's only for a moment, and just even in that moment, sometimes, and it's really hard in that particular moment to keep this in your head. You're here to have fun.
Yeah.
And everybody here, in spite of, we all want to learn, but if we're not enjoying ourselves, there's no point.
Yeah, that's true. Bring business cards. It's so simple. It's a networking event.
Yeah,
Bring
right.
Business cards. Wish I had that the first time, because
Business cards.
and because I do how I make money is still with graphic design. So I had cards, but I'd give people a graphic design card, and you meet so many people, you just kind of goes in and out the ear, and then you get home and you get a stack of business cards, and you're like, who the hell is this? I didn't need a graphic designer, and then you chuck it. So I learned to actually get author-oriented cards. So if you're doing like different stuff in your life, get cards dedicated to what you want to do in the writing industry.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'd just like to point out that I still have my Con Lavery graphic design business card from 2 years ago.
You should give him a high five for that.
There you go. High five.
Absolutely, I do.
Nice.
I still have it.
Nice.
For me, I wish that somebody had told me not to be scared. Like, I know for some people it is, it's just an inherent thing when they put themselves out there, but I had come in so fresh, and my eyes were just so wide, and there was such a feeling that I did not belong there. There was just such a feeling of like Robert J. Sawyer's just walking through the foyer. Hey, how's it going? One of the most successful genre fiction authors in the history of Canada. Like, as I slowly started to get into it, I realized that I wasn't alone in that. There's a lot of people who were in the same boat, whether it was their first year or their fifth year. There was a lot of that, and I felt out of place for a very long time. And hearing from somebody that I had done a pitch with, like, hey, we're interviewing you, but you're also interviewing us. Like this goes both ways. That really helped put me to that point where I'm like, yeah, this is as much about me and what I can offer as it is about what else is going on in the industry. So yeah, it would have been nice to have somebody be like, you'll be okay, Mark. Don't worry about this. Here's all the reasons why. But I didn't really associate with anybody in the industry at that time. So I just kind of like dove in head first and probably should have had some water wings on at the time.
I think that's the only way you can do these, though. If you're nervous, you just got to run with it and push forward, right?
And it's true. The very first thing that I did when I came to one of these was I had a pitch right away.
There you go.
So
that's perfect.
I didn't realize that it was going to be the first thing. I was expecting to go to some panels and stuff before that, and it just didn't end up working that way. But boom, straight into the pitch. And you're right. That's the way you do it. But there's still a lot of trepidation that goes into that probably wasn't warranted at the time, especially now that I've seen a few of them.
It's always good to have a little nerves, I find. Just
It
is, but one of the ways that I was really coming at it was with that quote unquote anti-author stance, where if I got picked up, it was great. And if I didn't, well, then I was just going to move on to the next thing. I was looking for my laundry list of rejections from all the different queries that I had sent out. I was waiting to be, no, I'm not interested in this, and sent out the door early, even from the pitch. And I think I could have been more confident when I was going in there in the first place if I just had that.
But you need to take that first step in order to get to that, right?
Yeah,
that's super important too.
Yeah.
Is just doing it, and then you learn from your mistakes. And obviously, if it was meant to be, it's going to happen. And if it's not, you keep on going and you go to the next one, right?
No, absolutely. It just at that time in my life, I didn't think of it that way.
Yeah.
So the end all, and super nervous.
Yeah.
Yes, we had a comment from the chat saying "liquid courage."
Hey.
Oh, geez.
That was before this panel.
Wait. I know who said that. Katie? No.
I want to see your panel that she's on. After
Oh, man. So the spilling episode that she talked about her liquid courage incident. No. That.
No.
She also asked a question about, have you ever been afraid to answer a question on a panel? Being an expert on stage really puts the pressure on you to perform. So has there been a question that you avoided?
Not fear exactly. One of the things you actually, and this is I think one of the cool things about being up here, you don't have all the answers. Like we have an expertise, but I mean, I've gone with some questions like, I don't know. Like I legitimately don't know. And I don't run from them but there's that moment of like discomfort because you're like, oh wow, I never thought of it. So that's actually sometimes really cool too, is I've never thought of that. It's okay not to have all the answers though.
Yeah, you just come clean and I honestly don't know. If I were in that scenario, I would do X, Y, and Z to figure out how, and probably go to a panel like this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I can honestly say it hasn't happened yet. Again, I'm not as experienced, but it's a rule that I have with my kids, and it's a good rule in life. And just like these guys are saying, say I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask this question, because there's some folks out here who probably will be on a panel. And do you feel obligated to answer every question you're asked on a panel? Do you think it's okay for panels to skip a question? How do you feel about that when you see it in the audience?
I'm going to go with Con. It really depends how many there are. I look at being on a panel or a show or anything as an opportunity. And I think more than the knowledge, it's also about presenting yourself to an audience, which is neat. Now, the thing is, going back to what he said, like, I don't know is a good answer sometimes. Yeah. It gets frightening though when you get, let's say it's a 10 question panel. It's a bit high. Let's say 10 questions. If I don't answer 2 of them, that's okay. If I don't answer 6 of them, that might be a problem. Yeah. Right. And I I feel that the panelists should be engaged. That doesn't mean you have to answer everything, but there definitely has to be that feeling that the panelist up here cares.
Yeah, and there's energy in the room. So it's like if a question's really tough that the audience asks, and then happen two of the panelists really know it, and then you can be like, oh, they basically covered it. So, and then pass. And that's basically how I've always answered. If I don't know a question, I don't try to like just add noise.
As the third person down the table, I completely agree with you.
You could have just said, I don't know, Mark. Is there something you'd like to see, maybe not at this festival, or maybe at this festival, or any festival you attend, that you haven't seen yet, that you've been asking somebody to do?
I'm doing it tomorrow, so I can't really say the answer to that anymore. So I always feel like even though these panels are definitely a lot of fun and engaging, I do enjoy audience interaction a lot, and I know there's questions, and questions are a very good way, but sometimes I wish there was more, because again, this is an opportunity to make an impression, not just with the camera, but with an audience, and that goes both ways, right? The audience can make an impression on the panels, because it's about ultimately learning and becoming a stronger community while you're here. That's what this is about. So I kind of wish there was a better way, but I don't have a perfect answer to that. So I maybe that's not fair.
Yeah. And they're really hard to do, but more workshops, like hands-on kind of stuff where you get to actually practice something. Like there's a random idea, like you have to come up with a story concept every 5 minutes, and there's a timer, and the audience is participating. And I don't know, something like that where it's engaging. I'd like to see more of those, because there are a lot of presentations and panels and stuff, and those are good, but to get the audience as a part of the whole event.
Yeah, I went to a conference actually in LA, a writers conference. It was a screenwriters conference, but what they did is they had this thing where you were given a scenario. Everybody was given the same scenario, a name of a character, and the situation in which you have to resolve the scene. And you had an hour to write, and then they would collect the best ones, and they had a series of judging panel judge the next best, and then if you were in the top 50, you'd make it to the next round, and so on and so forth, and they would give you something like that. Is that something more of like what you're talking about?
That'd be cool. Yeah, something like that.
And then there actually is that speed editor writer thing that happened earlier today. So there are some, but it'd be cool to see some more.
Well, like tomorrow I'm doing a Dr. Seuss off.
I'm
doing that tomorrow, and that's me going to the audience and trying to make them do tongue twisters all for like an hour.
Cool. Okay,
that
kind of stuff.
So adding again, just that sense of interaction. I think there are some limitations to what you can do,
right?
But again, just try to get the audience more involved with what's being done, because if the more people do, the more they learn.
That's true.
I went to Jim Jackson's panel earlier today, and he did that. He was very interactive. It was very cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
For myself, I'm involved in a lot of writing that is not just books, screenplays, writing for video games. I write for a video game company out of Toronto. This is a writers' conference, and every once in a while, something slightly different out of the norm. I'm not asking for a full screenwriters conference, but I think that something like this could probably have one or two different things.
I would kill to see a video game writing. Like I would love to actually to see that.
And there was one last year.
Yeah.
And the head writer who was here, he's a writer from Edmonton. He's a writer with BioWare. He's produced some fantastic work, and he did wonderful, and the rest of the panel did wonderful, but it was one expert and then a couple of people who were somewhat involved. And I think that if we got more involvement from some of the panels, we might have been able to even stretch that, and maybe something like that could have happened this year. I was kind of looking for one, but I'm not at a point where I could host one. So for things that are creative writing, genre fiction, like what I'm into, and that kind of thing, there are other facets outside of just short stories and microfiction and novels. There are some things that are out there on the fringe that I really think a festival like this that has so much content going on could host 2 or 3 of over the course of the weekend and continue that going each year.
Do you like panels, or do you like more of like a writer seminar kind of thing? What is your favorite?
I like a mix personally. If I just went and I just came to a weekend like this and I was sitting listening to people talk for the entire time, I think that it would probably get to me by about 4 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. Having interactive ones, like I saw that Dr. Seuss off, and like that concept of it is fantastic. And that's like, a lot of people here are incredibly creative, and a lot of them might not be at a point where they've released books or they have anything published. But if they can go up and they can interact with some people who have, and if you can take the beginner with the experienced author and combine them together, and
I'm not lying. I'm so scared because a lot of people that have come up to me and said they're going to be at that panel tomorrow. I'm a little scared because I didn't think it worked that well.
It's getting so fun.
I'll be honest. I'm going to go see if my schedule can fit in.
So I'm happy it's working out as well as it did. I'm blown away by that. Right?
That's awesome.
Yeah. But no, it's like I said. But going back to just at the fundamentally, this show does a lot of good stuff. Yes. And I don't think put it this way, what we're basically talking about here is adding basically a little like a little spark to the wheel. Not the wheel itself is very, very good here. So
I agree.
So another question I got in the chat was, has a panel gone wrong for you?
Yes.
Do you want to take some time to think about that?
That was really fast.
No, I was actually at the last festival I was at. It was a combination of we were supposed to do about anti-heroes, and about halfway through the panel, one person really, really, really got strong, and the moderator wasn't doing anything about it. Honestly, I should have bailed. I'm not kidding at all. It was not, it's one thing to shut us down. It's another thing when you're shutting the audience down.
Right.
And it was bad. Like it was
one way.
Because it just went off into this tangent it shouldn't have. And I mean, like I said, disagreements, like we're gonna disagree on stuff.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool. But we can be civil about it, right? Yeah. And you don't, and even the audience might disagree with us. Yeah. That's cool too. Yeah. We can be civil. I can have a drink with you afterwards. It's all good.
Right? Still be friends.
Yes, right? But that one was special. I'm not gonna lie.
Huh.
Yeah.
I'm very picky about what I choose for panels. I want to only be part of the ones I know I can add something to. So, and I haven't actually been in that kind of scenario. So far I've had good luck.
I hope it stays that way, buddy.
And you're doing kind of a seminar on graphic design.
Yeah, tomorrow I'm doing a kind of a presentation with some worksheets and stuff on graphic design. Very theory heavy, so we're not even going to look at technology. It's all about the fundamentals because the stuff dates way back before computers. Yes. So yeah, good design, no matter what era.
Yep.
So
and I can't say that I've had that experience yet. I have seen one that it wasn't at this conference. It was at the Calgary Expo that I went to. The topic was very similar. It was something that would fit in very well here. But my personal opinion is that the panel who was there was mostly just there to hear themselves speak to each other. Like it was. There was no. They were mostly just asking each other questions. It was a conversation that they probably could have had at a bar, not with 30 people sitting in a room like this. And I didn't get the information from that I wanted to at all. And it was very early, and it was one about being published and the question of indie versus traditional versus doing it yourself with self-publication. And there were 3 experts in each of those individual fields, and they were just all having a conversation. There was no interaction with the crowd, and I didn't get from that anything like what I got from a short time later, because that was in 2016. It was that same year that I had come here, and somebody hosted one here that was just the exact same topic, and it was infinitely better.
Nice.
It was just a single host, and he had all the right information and engaged himself well. So, I mean, I wasn't a part of the one that I went to at the expo, but just being in I didn't feel like I should have even been part of that conversation. I felt bad for listening in on these guys' conversations, even though I paid to go to that expo and see these people.
Yeah.
So,
I went to a documentary film panel, and I was in the audience, and it was broke down into this political debate about Trump, and there was two sides yelling at each other. I've never been inside of something that crazy.
is that last year?
What's
Is
that?
that last year?
It was a couple years ago. Yeah, it was right. It was right when he was running. It wasn't when he was president yet.
Oh, good Lord.
And it was just, and I can't imagine what it would have been like when he got elected president, because it was volatile and people were yelling at each other. And the panelists literally got up and were starting, you guys got to be quiet. We've got more to cover. And they didn't handle it properly, but it was crazy. I've never seen anything like that. So I think the subject matter.
Did you try to run? Because I
got out of there. Yeah, I left.
Yeah,
I left. I couldn't do that.
These chairs are not bolted to the floor. Something's going fly.
Yes.
Does anybody in the audience have a question for us? Speaking of engaging all of you, did you want to make a comment, have a question?
I want to know how you started doing panels.
Okay.
I was asked to do one. That's the honest answer. I wanted to do some more, so I just said I went last year. Actually, was my first time really doing some panels. Like, okay, let's get myself into this, get more out there, more involved. And I basically, for me, it was throwing spaghetti at the wall. I ended up doing a video game panel. I did a Goodreads panel, and I did a podcast panel. I did branding and two my own, two from the year. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, same story. Like, I got asked one time and was invited. Then he told me about a bit of the process and how it works, and then I just started submitting my own and picking people, and then eventually switched over to more presenting with some panels. So yeah, it just got asked and kind of roped in.
Joe asked for a host about 24 hours ago on Facebook.
Is this legit your first?
Sitting up in front like this, yeah.
Sweet.
At this conference.
Oh,
yes.
Wow, I'm honored. That's great.
But sitting in on other things and up front, I guess I have to go 3 for 3. I was just asked to because I had some experience in it, and I did not travel in author circles before I got here, and I still really don't. So Mark's an author, so ask him questions that he knows nothing about. He's an author. So yeah,
I was
networking.
I was sitting in a panel. I was sitting at a panel that was being discussed. I wasn't a part of it originally, and my agent actually at the time pushed me to go up there. She's like, "Oh, he could really answer that question. Oh, he knows a lot about that. That's what his book's about." And I felt like it was kind of self-serving, but I didn't want to join because I wasn't invited. But they pushed me in there, and I felt like, you know what? From that point forward, I'm going to decide what ones I want to do, and I reach out and I ask if I can be a part of it. That's how I do it, or I just make my own, like I'm doing now.
Like right now.
Yeah.
I know in this organization that they put up what panels they're going to have, and so you can submit to be on that panel.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is just letting people know.
Yeah.
So
I'm just curious how they started.
yeah, just to let people know that you'd be interested in doing something.
Yeah, and there's, like we said, there's nothing like jumping in and swimming. You'll figure out that you have something to contribute. So, anybody else have any questions? Okay.
Do you think it actually helps sell your books?
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you use it as a tool?
I've ended up like, okay, on the podcast level, I've ended up meeting people I was going to interview. It has expanded my reach as a podcaster for sure. And even in terms of writing, I have found that it has opened doors for me on a freelance level on some things. It's opened doors for me. I may not necessarily get a book sale today, but I'm up here. My name's out there. This is something people can see me do. I present myself hopefully fairly well. And people will go, hey, I want to know more, or hey, let's do this. Hey, let's do that. And I find just going out and doing this kind of stuff tends to just be good.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like same. Like it helps that long reach because people actually see you, and then at the end of some of these panels, people will come up and grab your business cards and stuff. And a more particular example is that some of these expos, like Comic Cons, you've got a booth there, and then you're doing panels, and you've got someone helping you run the booth, and you're off to do a panel. You're essentially a poster for your stuff twice. And the people at the panel, if they like what you have to say, they want to know more about you, they'll come talk to you at your booth later. So I found that can help as well. So overall, I found it just kind of helps credibility and does ultimately help sales too.
For me, I think the jury's still kind of out.
Find out after.
As I said, this is the first one that I've done at WWC, but I'd like to think so. At the very least, it's continuing to create awareness of Mark Watson, the brand. As much as I hate the words Mark Watson, the brand, I'm up here, I'm having this conversation, and I wanted to do it. So obviously, I'm a brand of some kind. That or my hat is, because it is what engages most people.
That's the hat.
It's the hat for sure.
Definitely.
It's been like 2 years, and that's also been good because somebody can come from Twitter and be like, I recognize that hat. But it has definitely increased awareness of Mark Watson. Does that translate to book sales? I honestly wouldn't have the hard data to answer that. I'd like to think that it does, or at the very least, it gets people really close.
This is a good time for me to mention that I have all my stuff on that back wall back there. I have a brochure of what we do at GoIndie Now, all our shows, and I have a swag coupon for anybody who wants to wear a beautiful GoIndie Now shirt. So grab those, and my business cards are there too for personal contact if you wanted to do that. But yes, it does help. I think it certainly has helped me, and I do have books for sale too if anybody wants to talk about it.
You hustler, you.
But yes, no, it is help. It has helped me do that tremendously. Is there any specific advice you'd give to anybody who's self-proclaimed or is truly an introvert about attending these events? Mark, I think you're more apt to answer this question than anybody. So since you were so nervous.
I don't consider myself an introvert.
I don't either.
Okay, good. Message is delivered. I'll tell a really quick story. The very first When Words Collide that I came to. I remember very clearly walking down the stairs for the Saturday night autograph session, and I walked up to the bar and I grabbed a beer and I was walking around. I'm ready to socialize. This is where I'm a Viking. This is what I'm here for, right? And there was so many people. There's a lot of people who were engaged in the tables and having conversations, and there was a plethora of wallflowers who just didn't have that step to get engaged. And the advice that I would say to them is find another wallflower. Have a conversation. I did this last year because I was kind of like sitting someplace awkwardly and there was somebody next to me. We struck up a conversation. We ended up getting along famously, and we hung out for the rest of the night, and the beers that night were much less awkward. But I remember walking in and I'm just like having a drink. I'm like, I'm the only person here with a drink in my hand. What kind of party is this? Like, I don't understand what's going on. And then that kind of segregated me and made me feel a little bit awkward as well. But it was just going and engaging and having conversations. And even if it was just like a face that I saw in a crowd from a panel that I'd been to earlier that day, just to go up and be like, hey, what did you think of that panel that we were at earlier today? Because it was daunting to be in that room and know that I don't really know anybody because I'm not from the industry. At least I wasn't at the time.
Yeah, no, it's solid advice. Like icebreakers, they're tough to learn, but like, yeah, you just find some sort of common ground to relate to. And if you're going to one of these conventions, there's so much information that you can try and write it all down. You're meeting people and you're going to panels, and you might even be on some, and you're at home most of the time as an introvert. So it's like you're completely out of your element. So it'd make it really awkward. Like just remember to breathe and even find kind of your own sort of like landmarks that are your safe safe spots where you can go and like you'll find someone else at that point. Like a good place is the lobby. People go there and sit, and you might just sit a chair by yourself, gather yourself. Someone that will come by and talk to you. So there's just little landmarks that you can use for that kind of stuff too. Yeah, and then breathe.
So, based on nature of what I do, I tend to be the one to break the ice, because that's the challenge. I interview introverts all the time. What I find is try to find, again, but some stuff stated, like find someone with common interests, someone that's maybe in your boat. Sit by yourself, breathe. I remember one instance. There was first year I was here. There was this one individual. She was very, very uncomfortable. Like, she was really out of place. She didn't feel like she didn't belong. She just needed someone to talk to her. That was it. Like, and I could be that person for them. The fact is, like, I can't speak for every conference, but this one in particular, no one here is trying to make anybody feel bad, right? Everybody here is trying to go for the same boat. So if this is the nature of the conference, definitely plays a role in this. But in something like this, everyone here is trying to be friendly. So you know what? If nothing else, say hello. You might not find the right person, but you might not find the right click. But you might find that, again, they'll be friendly, and you go with someone else, will be friendlier, and it'll get easier. Yeah.
Nice. Anybody else have any other questions before we wrap up? All right. Well, let's go back and tell everybody where they can find you. Mark, why don't you start?
For sure. You can find Death Dresses Poorly. It's available on Amazon from Fluky Fiction. And Catching Hell Part 1 is available on just about every ebook format there is. I haven't found one yet that it's not on, because it's an ebook only one, and that one is from Double Dragon Press. You can find links to all this stuff on my website at markwatson.ca. That's MarkWatson.
Nice.
You can find me online, most active on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. All those links can be found on my website, which is conlavery.com, KONNLAVERY.com. Find me there.
My last name's kind of unique. J. Pantelleresco is there's not many like me, which really works in my favor. I think I'll advertise. So yeah, just click J. Pantelleresco and you will find lots of me. I am on the internet like a virus. It's just the way it is. But my podcast is Just Joshing. It airs twice a week, usually Tuesday, Fridays, but it's every once in a while it's Wednesday, Saturdays, but for sure twice a week, different authors. My books, The Watcher, Storm Dancer, Wonder God, are available as ebooks and regular books. You can find them on Amazon, Kobo, anywhere books are sold. You can get them there. I have a YouTube channel, Joshua Pantelleresco, where a lot of past archived episodes are at. Not all of them, because I'm lazy. I'm sorry. I'm just the way it is. I'm sorry. And but beyond all that, stop in on Facebook. I'm Joshua Pantelleresco. Come by, say hi.
And I'm Joe Compton, and you can find my book. It's called Amongst the Killing. It's a crime thriller on Amazon. I have it in all three formats. I have it in ebook, I have it in paperback, and in audiobook. And you can see our shows on Go Indie Now. If you just type in Go Indie Now, search it on the YouTube channel, Go Indie Now, all one word, you'll find us. We're the first thing that pops up. GoIndieNow.com is also a great place to find every place that we're on social media, and we are on everything. And I have shows on Facebook. I will be starting a show here after I return on Instagram, a daily show, which will have featured news about indies and what are indies doing every day. So we'll be doing that daily. So check us out on Instagram. Again, Go Indie Now. And we are all done. So thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you to the audience for joining us. And remember that it's always time to go indie now. And we'll see you again very soon. All right, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.